is the last segment of What's Hot in Tucson 2021, the live edition. And for this segment, we're going to head back to England, and we've got Deanna Bruce and Phil Taylor from Crystal Classics UK to wrap up our entire series. Phil, Deanna, welcome back to the show, and let's look at Northern England fluorite minerals.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Hello, Peter. Hello, Lauren. It's nice to have that final show, although it's a little bit sad that it's over. Sort of enjoyed those evenings. For us, at least, it's evenings. For you, it's mornings. So, yes, it was really nice. So, today we have Northern English Fluorite. So, a nice selection across the board. It is really more, I think, Phil's expertise, although I don't think anyone could be more experienced and tell you more about the Northern English Fluorite than probably Liz and Dave Hacker. I mean, They are really sadly missed, and we haven't seen them for a long time. I hope they're watching, but they would be your go-to person. They know literally everything that you could possibly think of to ask. So, but we hope we will not be too bad and not too disappointing for all our viewers. So we're trying to give you a nice overview of all the lovely goodies and fluorides that we have here on the shelf. And Joel, our cameraman, is just giving you a broad overview straight into a specimen. And I think, Phil, why don't you start with whatever you want to pick?
Wow, hey, you've caught me unawares here. Well, look, I think a lot of people have been excited for the Hilton Mine fluorites. Just as an overview, they're all from the north of England, as you would expect, and it really divides into three main parts. Primarily Weardale in County Durham, where we know there's lots of famous fluorite mines. And then we have the ones from Hilton, which is just a single mine in Cumbria, and one or two beautiful blue ones from the West Cumbrian iron ore field. So I don't know if we start off with the Hiltons, because I know Lauren in particular, and I'm sure these are the famous yellow ones from Hilton Mine. And that's Cumbria before the county changes to county, and these are fabulous, famous yellows from this mine. And actually, through a lot of its history, we saw a barite from Hilton the other night, and it was barite that the mine was principally mined for. And the yellows really weren't known, and it was amateur mineral collectors and the Northern Mines Research Society got in and started discovering these wonderful specimens. And you can just see those two Dianas holding beautiful, a big crystal here of these lovely lemons, and then a real gemmy one here on this specimen.
And that is probably one thing to point out when you look at the larger, as the probably more well-known and really what the mine became through, gemmy and so clear, but still really what people associate with Hilton, those really intense yellows and really sort of gemminess. And then here again, famous also the twinning of the crystals. So that is something that seems to be reoccurring, sort of variations on a theme, the twinning of the crystals.
And the colour range, I think these we're showing tonight are what people really picture Hilton fluorites to be, but the yellows do vary from a very, very pale lemon to almost an intense golden lemon as well. Oh yeah, here's a lovely gemmy one. Yeah.
So if we look at this little miniature specimen, where more perfectly, and they seem to be, or they are, and you have the paler variation of the fluoride. Nice two twinned crystals.
Yeah, I can see on the camera here that it's showing the gemminess of that really well. When you move your finger up, you can see it perfectly clear through it. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous.
So you're seeing the same phenomenon there that you see at the Rogerley and the Diana Maria, where it's the twins that are really the gemmy crystals, and the other crystals are a little cloudy.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, that is so true, and particularly in these, and more recently at the Lady Annabella Mine, it is so noticeable that the interpenetrant twins are gem.
Diana Maria, so you see this here very well. So you have Diana Maria Mine Fluoride. This is this is probably from the Papa Pocket, judging by the gemminess, because that was just a color second to none.
Think so.
And you see that first generation of fluorites, this little bed, and then you have those really nice large twins that are so gem clear, sitting right on top, and really nice. Also, you have the twinning, sort of the nice twinning here, and that changed face really penetrated here.
And I mean, another thing it shows, you know, there's often this, I think it's an unwritten rule, but twins usually form bigger crystals than the single crystals. And again, it's very apparent in Weardale and at Hilton.
Well, look at this new Lady Annabella Mine from the Sherry Twins Pocket. So this is a single, like a twinned crystal. So you see just the size for reference. So they have those lovely, almost purplish color already. So you see that here, the twin from Diana Maria, but still a really nice crystal. And here, again, also a weakened crystal sitting on a paler and more included bed of a first generation fluoride, and then this really nice in more orangey yellow.
And from where I am, I think it's just a case of catching it. It's beautifully zoned as well. If you can, I'm just trying to look at the camera. If you can see in this top section here, there's purple and I think it's blue banding.
Yes.
Transgressioning into the yellow.
And now in the UV or under UV light and in daylight, this would be the one that would fluoresce. So the yellow is actually not fluorescent, daylight fluorescent. It's really just those outer zones are actually fluoresce.
Yes. And again, just a general comment for people not familiar with the English fluorites here. There's a lot of the rare earth elements included in incredible fluorescence. So fluorescence, they do naturally fluoresce in daylight without a UV torch.
So, but if we then just show a UV light, so now here you have a really nice bolts burn. So you have it without the light, it's already nice purplish, but this is
wow.
The UV. Lady Annabella Mine, again, this is their, this is Heights Mine. So Heights Mine, so you have a sort of almost lime green, and then they show really nicely up under the UV.
And again, for people not familiar with these English fluorites, they can have almost this effect just in sunlight without a UV light being used. They are quite amazing.
Oh, look at this Heights. So this is interesting, I find. So you have this Heights with the quartz, and it looks rather pale, but as soon as you put a UV, it's getting nice and purple. And that is really what the beauty really unfolds almost when you take them out. And this is always so fascinating when you are actually mining, and which we are thankfully can do with Diana Maria, Lady Annabella Mine, and the Rogerley Mine. Yeah. You have them underground, and they have this really great green. They're still muddy, packed in a deep clay, and you sort of sparsely clean them off. And then you take them outside, and the effect is just like, wow, it's blowing you away.
Yeah. They are just spectacular. While Joel's in this part of the cabinet and Diana's just shown this lovely one here from Boltzburn. Boltzburn is one of the most sought after mines in the Weardale Valley for its fluorites. It has produced these sort of more lilac shades, and when the mine was you know, exploited in the 1800s. They actually formed walking pockets sometimes of up to 50 feet long, and there's reports of collecting perfect cubes up to 12 inches across. But it's this gorgeous sort of lavender purple that is very distinct from Bulksburn. And I think we've got one or two others in the cabinet. Maybe at the other extreme down there, there's that large one at the end there, a bit for that one, I believe that's from Bulksburn. That's quite different, and it's, you know, more translucent. But again, just look at the quality of the cube and this sort of beautiful coating on it. Yeah, look at that. And they even tend to fluoresce this sort of a more lavender color than some of the other mines. And it's all to do with just the rare earth element distribution throughout the valley. A lot of analysis has been done, and it varies greatly to cause the different fluorescence.
Interestingly, what I find always when you look at different mines, while we're showing another fluorite, so we have here a nice Fraser's hash specimen, sort of really gemmy, really almost candy-like crystals that are here shown. Again, we have the second generation with the nice gemmy crystals, and the first generation really diddy, small, little, almost translucent crystals. But what is actually interesting is fluoride was discovered to be used as a flux. So they figured out really early on, I mentioned this in one of our earlier episodes. So Gregorius Agricola described it in 1530 already. And then in 1566, they already discovered its characteristic that is useful as a flux, so lowering the melting temperatures of metals. Of fluoride within the rock embedded. They also used it to make porcelain, I believe.
Yes, yeah. And again, this Fraser's Hush mine, that's more to the northwest part of Weardale, towards the town of Allen Heads, between Rookhope and Allen Heads. And a lot of this material came out in the 1900s. And again, as we've spoken on a number of these evenings, stuff was in bucketfuls. And it was easy for collectors to say, I won't bother with this. It's just so plentiful. You'd think it would go on forever. And as with all these things, it's now highly sought after because it just disappeared over a broader lot of it, and it's quite hard to get. And the Fraser's Hush is beautiful and fluoresces lovely in daylight as well.
Now, I really want to show two specimens from Blackdean, actually.
Yeah.
So I want to show this large cabinet specimen, which I find is really, really nice to just show the plates. And here again, you have the twinning here on some of the crystals. This is almost like a modified twin, sort of, which is sort of more like an L-shaped or crystal there. You have a couple of little quartz crystals sitting on top, but this is really a nice sort of already striking in the color when you look at it in that way. So, and then again, we have, I guess, this really intensified effect under UV.
Yeah. And just as a historical note, Blackdean Mine's probably one of the oldest operating mines in Weardale, or founded, I should say. I think records date back to 1401 when that mine opened. So it is historically one of the oldest there.
And I always am a sucker for things that are oddly shaped. And here you have a Blackdean specimen, and it looks a little bit like a little engine house.
It does, yeah.
So you have a little engine house fluoride. I thought this is so cool. I love it.
And perhaps some viewers might, if it looks familiar, if you remember the wonderful Meringue supplement they brought out on the Lindsay Greenbank North of England collection, there were about 2 or 3 of his specimens like that in that edition. And they are just gorgeous, gorgeous things. And very rare too with these elongated crystal satellite.
Again, sort of, you just have this wow effect. where the outer layer towards the edges of the crystal are just a little bit more intense in their fluorescence than the core of the actual crystal.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. That I think a lot of these two, if I'm correct, were from the slit vein, which that mine exploited.
Now we need to also point out some things that are also, if you think not just green or purple fluorite, you shouldn't forget about Florence Mine, which produced lovely blue fluorites.
These are just gorgeous, and you can see they're on the like a creamy white dolomite, which the miners call pearl spar, because it does have this pearly luster to it. And it's quite peculiar to Florence Mine. Some collectors might have these in the specimens, and you'll have them labelled as Ulcoats Mine, but it's really a misnomer. They were found in Florence Mine, but at one point the Florence Ulcoats ore body, the two mines joined, and then they tended to bring them out of the Ulcoat shaft. So they got labelled as Ulcoat specimens. But I've spoken to Raymond Clements, who was the mine surveyor in those mines, and he assures me they only came out of Florence.
Now let's also show some of our other specimens and other fluorites that we have. So I think always western green when it comes to fluorite, and this one is especially intense in the coloration, so very strong color, a little bit more in the yellow, but it is a nice mix. It is really a different green. So if you're looking, I mean, when you just look at this cabinet, so you have just one area of the UK, fluorites from the north of the England or north of England, and the sheer color variation in order to put a cabinet just with one species together is really, really something.
It is. And again, it's such a characteristic color. It's, although it does vary, it's basically all shades of apple green from West Pasture. And they can be more intense than that and less, but that's just a lovely sort of zingy, mouth-watering color, really. And just a word of warning, the West Pasture's material is light sensitive, so it's best not to put them in a display daily.
That is to be said for all fluorides. I mean, all fluorides really are light sensitive, so you need to be just aware that a constant exposure to sunlight will actually cause fading. Now, I would like to go and back to the fluorides from the Diana Maria mine, because you can see how gemmy and lovely those are looking, and you can see also how lovely they are showing up under the UV. So that really zing. And because some of the crystals are sometimes broken when we mine them, I had the really grand idea, sort of, why not actually cut a few of those fluorides? Now, I think just for size, so this one here, for example, is 17 by 17 millimeters. And just to show that, and you still retain
So cool.
the daylight fluorescence. So now this won't be as intense in daylight. So it is a UV lamp, so it won't be as intense. But you can see, so I've done a few little gemstones here. So they still fluoresce. I might even let them lay down. They're probably more effective if I'm not handling them. And then did different cuts, different designs. And of course, I also then worked on the jewelry. So you see some of the jewelry here. I really went for it and tried to make different, so trillions, rounds, ovals. You have lovely sets that are mixed with pearls. So you name it, and it just seems to be a nice, different angle to the mining and really using the full potential of the material. So
it is.
The market now has
Deanna, before you go off of that, I'd like to make a comment that when you take those cut stones out into the sunlight, as you said, you don't get as intense a blue color, but you have this green fluorite, and then you see these kind of traces of blue in it, and it's incredible. I ended up, you know, I'm not really a collector, but I ended up buying one of those for my wife, as you'll recall, last year in Tucson, and it's a beautiful piece. I love that the line of jewelry that you've created.
And I mean, I agree, and I'm not what. Obviously, I don't wear the jewelry, but I love these stones like this when you have the faceted one next to the natural one. And I think in a display cabinet, the two just look sensational together.
Rough and cut.
And
Yeah.
you mounted the twins too, didn't you? As jewelry?
Oh yes, I did also a boho range where I thought, well, why not do something a little bit more fun and where sort of people would like to wear jewelry that's a little bit more natural. So I do have also that range, but I have almost sold out, so I have nothing to show. There's a few pieces left, so but I'm expecting a new delivery. But yes, so you can imagine something like this. And then you have just a nice bezel set around it, and you can wear it on a silver chain as well. So, but they were really popular, and hence I have nothing to show. But one thing I wanted to add, two specimens from our mines I would like to point out. This is one of our new finds, which is called the Milky Way Pocket. Now you have this really intense, so that's Diana Maria Mine. We called it Milky Way because of the inclusion of really sort of the frosting on the crystals. Now they look not as spectacular when you have them in the cabinet because it is a rather teal green, very dark, and maybe not as enticing, but when you have a UV, they really fire. So intense, and that is really how they look outside. So this is really so purple, so vivid, that it is really like you have almost two specimens. So you have one that looks interesting and intriguing in a cabinet, but when you take them outside, it's like a zing.
Yeah, and obviously the name, the fluorite, when it's not fluorescing, it can look intensely dark, almost black, and then you get it speckled with the white inclusion, and it really is like looking at the galaxy, really. So, hence the name.
Not the chocolate bar.
Not the chocolate bar, no.
Well, I see a TGMS case coming up in the near future.
Yeah. With
Only
Phil Taylor, surely.
Only one?
Okay, a couple.
A lovely specimen, very popular pocket. This was is the poison ivy pocket from the Lady Annabella Mine. So for those of you who are not familiar, Lady Annabella Mine is a project we started last in the old Eastgate quarry, and we are basically mining some very nice variations. So you have from really nice yellows to those poison ivy, because it's more of a, I don't want to say aggressive, but it is kind of an aggressive green. It's just so in your face that it's so like unusual.
An acidic green sometimes, and I think you can see it on this. You get these more cloudy frosted centers, and then they grade to really sometimes quite gemmy corners and edges. You can see them framing. And I do believe if you put the UV on down, it sort of picks out the edges more. It certainly does in natural light, and giving a sort of computer framework almost to each crystal. And I think they're just gorgeous things. They're quite unusual. And again, people are familiar with, if you've heard of Eastgate Quarry, it's also known as Blue Circle Cement Quarry, and it has produced great zone specimens over the years since when it started in the 1960s. But I've got to say, and that's a lot of those come out since Ian and Diana started mining it in July last year. There's a whole range of new types coming out, and they're fabulous. Yeah, just that's the same, isn't it? Yeah, poison ivy. Yeah. They're really unusual. And this one next to that now is a yellow fluorite from the same mine, and that's been called Lemon Meringue Pocket for the obvious reasons. Singy lemon with a white quartz coating of meringue. So very nice to have for you for the dessert.
I'm surprised that you're not naming pockets out of alcoholic drinks yet.
It's coming. It's coming. Yeah, well, I think we should also show this specimen, because it's just a little bit something different. Heights Mine. So with the nice, really sugary quartz on top. So these are also, Heights really was also one of those many variations on a theme. So you have galenas with it, you have those nice calcites, you have here quartz. So, and since I'm talking about all those different variations, we might as well show them. So here you have Heights Mine and Heights Pastures Mine, and you have fluorite with calcite. So you can see those little calcite crystals here dotted around. And then you have a little bit further back, you have a Heights Mine specimen, and you see the galenas that are right here.
And Heights Mine is featured all those years ago in Peter Bancroft's book of gem and crystal treasures, and was one.
And there again, the really striking fluorescence under UV.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And it's lovely. Again, it's sort of the edges are glowing, and so you get the intense UV and the green still at the centers. A lovely combination.
And for those that might not see it, so you have single crystal, but this is all one crystal. So this here, it's all one crystal.
I was just going to say, Diana, how about pointing that one out with the calcite on? That's rather nice.
Our snowdrift from Diana Maria Mine, we had those lovely combinations with the calcite. So firstly, we named it aragonite, but then we had it analyzed because it was really deceiving. So it is actually analyzed calcite. So, but that is really building a nice contrast. So you have, and we named it snowdrift. Obviously, it's not uncommon. I think they have snow right now.
Yes.
So you're really having the green peaks out of the snowy winter wonderland. And when we found them, a lot of people always ask us, why is there no calcite on those twins? Well, that's how we found them. For some reason, one or the other, the calcite never overgrew on the twinned crystals. So they were always like this. So there's no prep work to be done or exposure that was needed to be done in the lab. So they really were found like this. And again, that crazy contrast with having really blue. Now, I also don't know, and that is certainly subject to analyzation and further research. I'm not aware or not sure what causes a purple fluorescence or a blue fluorescence. Why is there the difference?
I think it's just, I say there's, if you look at the analysis of these fluorites from Weardale, they contain about at least 10 rare earth elements. And I think one of the big influences is the element europium.
Yes.
That there is quite a lot of it, and yttrium. And I think they all have an effect, but I think it's those two that are key players in these subtle, and it probably only needs a few atoms different to cause the fluorescence to change.
Well, Deanna, we're coming down to our last couple minutes with you. So if you have a couple other things that you want to share with us, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, this is a famous one. We've mentioned camber keels yet, and this is from a section. Although camber keels is famous for its purple fluorites, in the zinc flats it found these beautiful icy clear green and blue crystals, and I know Crystal Classics has had some fabulous ones over the years.
So for those, these are the fluorites. Again, they are twinned. They are almost hard to make out, but they're really impressive when you look at it. So they are nicely perched on either side, so it almost looks like a face.
Yes, yeah. But the zinc flats have produced some fabulous specimens. It really has. I remember we once had a gorgeous ice blue crystal here, and yeah, the things of utter beauty.
Are those fluorescent?
Camber Keels. Sorry, I was only going to say Camber Keels is quite near to Fraser's Hush Mine.
Very faintly. You pick up some fluorescence, but it's really minute. So there seems to be some zoning, internal zoning in the crystals that fluoresces, but other than that, there's no reaction.
Well, Deanna,
Perhaps
I
want
think
to
that
finish with
is all the
maybe is-
time that we have today. Phil, you got one more you want to share real quickly?
Well, one of the famous ones, the heavy metal pocket from Diana Maria Mine. So you have, again, first generation fluorites, galena as the heavy metal, because there was a really lot or a huge amount of galena in that pocket. And then you have those nicely twin crystals perched on top. Again, with the UV, those really start to shine and come out. So, and that was really unusual because it was just that one spot in the mine where we had this large amounts of galena. So hence we called it the heavy metal pocket.
Yeah. And it's an important one to show because a lot of the mines in Waledale were mined for galena, but it's the fluorite that's become mainly famous.
All right, why don't we get a pan out so that we can see your lovely faces again?
Don't know about mine, but
Oh yeah, well, I was being kind, Phil. All righty, Phil, Deanna, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time you spent with us.
On the show, and it was really lovely, and it was really a lot of fun. So for everyone, or for anyone that has questions to either the specimens or just to the theme, do contact us, and you can do this, and you find an email address on the www.crystal, and yeah, get in touch. You can also via Facebook or Instagram. We're always available and happy to help.
thank you.